Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. As you can see, CD32 controller pad. I'm not sure that looks correctly aligned there. I'm assuming someone's messed around with that. And it looks like we've got some super glue or something. I can polish all that off with some plastic cleaner. So this is described as faulty. I don't like that start button there, it's like rubber. It's awful. Yeah, shoulder buttons feel to be clicking. It's got written on there no response, and there's a screw or two missing here, so yeah, someone's been inside this and tinkered with it, no doubt. First thought is the cable. We could have a damaged cable, so I'm going to unscrew this to start with, and we'll just test the connectivity through to here, just to rule out the cable before we start. So I've got the screws out there. Now if we're super lucky, the cable might be alright. It might be one of these chips here, and these are standard TTL. I don't know if you can see that, if I can try and get it to focus. 74LS125A, and that one's upside down, a 74LS165N. So yeah, I think the way this works is there's some multiplexing going on, the way it reads the buttons. So we're just going to screw these screws here to have a look at the board, because it doesn't look like something's been spilt on it or something, I don't know. Carefully pull that out. It's interesting that there's no like alignment notch or anything on that. I'm guessing it maybe had them at some point to hold it in the right place, because you know that could just rotate around like that. Yeah, I'd be tempted to mod this actually later and stick a couple of pieces of small plastic on the edges there, just to hold it. You know, get it lined up the way you want it, and then stick the pieces of plastic over so that it stays within its alignment there like that. I'm not sure what's happened to that, whether it's had them broken off or what. But anyway, the rubbers seem okay. That's kind of like a PC Engine rubber, that actually, so you could swap that out. Yeah, the buttons look okay to me, so that's good. That looks alright, there's a hair in there. But yeah, we can clean all that stuff up. I'm not too worried about that, that all looks fine. So on the underside of the PCB, just a bit dirty, maybe the contacts. You can see some dirt on the contacts there, if I can get that to focus, see that? So we can clean those up with some IPA. But as I say, I'll test the cable first, so we'll just do some connectivity tests. I'll put the multimeter on continuity, and we'll measure from each of these here to here, just to make sure we've got a connection for each one. So what I've been doing is plugging the the probe into the connector there, and then just have a measure around, and as you can see, they're okay. I've tested every single one of these actually, and they're all joined up. So yeah, what I did find is that I had to wiggle a probe a little bit inside there on one or two of them, and then it started to make a join, and it wasn't like the cable was the issue. I wonder if some contamination's got in there, so I'm going to clean that out. We'll clean up the PCB, and I'm just going to go plug it in and we'll give it a try. So I'll just clean the PCB gently here with some IPA. And we'll clean up the contacts here as well, again gently with some IPA. You're not looking to remove all that black stuff, you're looking to just level them, smooth them off. The IPA will dissolve a little bit of the surface of that carbonised stuff there. And don't forget the shoulder buttons as well. Yeah, no response at all, you can see it's not moving, and if I move the wire around, nothing. So one side of the meter's connected to the ground of that cap there, so I'm testing the ground here, and as you can see we've got a join, and if I just move the cable, just watch, hang on, it's gone, and then it comes back. So yeah, I think we've got a dodgy ground on this here somewhere actually. So I chopped off the end here, and I've given myself a little distance because in theory I think I'm able to join this back on. That was my force. I didn't think it was actually in here where it was damaged, and I'm glad I did that, because you can see I've got it joined up now, the crock clip of the other side of the meter to the black, and that is the ground. And if I just sort of wiggle here, somewhere around here, it will probably start to make a join again. Try and twist the cable a little bit. Unless it's up here somewhere. So after cutting away pieces of various lengths, one of them quite long, I actually ended up getting to a point where the connectivity was good. And the cable's still long enough. It's as long as any of my other joysticks, but it's not as long as a CD32 controller cable would be. So I've slid 2 different sizes of heat shrink here. I'm going to join this back up, isolate the things with the connections there with tape in and out, wind them around, I'll show you that, and then slide up these the first piece of heat shrink, put some super glue on the circumference of the cable there, same on this side, slide it over, wait for that to dry, heat shrink it, and then slide the wider piece over, maybe stick a little bit of glue again underneath as I slide it over, and then heat shrink that on, and it should work hopefully, as long as there's not another core or something that's broken in there that I've missed. The hardest bit is going to be trying to isolate these from each other with insulation tape, because there's 9 connections. So the easy way to do this is to do them in blocks of 3. So like I've done black, brown and yellow. So if I might trim this tape down a little bit, that'll do. And I've shown this before, but what you want to do is slide it between the first pair, the first couple of wires there. So it's isolating the black, and then fold it right over like that. So the black is now secured within there, and separate the other colour. So we've got the yellow on top, can you see that? And then feed it around and through the gap between those 2. So yeah, again, very fiddly to do. Should be able to grab that. Yeah. There we go. So, and again, just fold that then over the yellow. So the yellow is now encapsulated. And then just do the same thing with the next colour. And if you do that for each of the 3 lots, it shouldn't be too thick then, the thickness of the insulation tape, but they'll be isolating each other from each other. So just testing quickly before I stick the heat shrink on. And it seems to be working. So I'm not sure what all the other buttons do. I need to go and find something that's capable of testing all the buttons actually, but yeah, it seems to be fixed now. Yeah, the green button does a random track, as you can see. The blue button stops it, because I see the little square, you can't quite see that, the square thing clicks in there when you do that. If I press the left shoulder button, we can go back tracks, I think. Seems to be stuck on 14 at the moment, I don't know why. Oh, I know why, it's because of the order at the top. If I press the right button, yeah, so that's the right shoulder, you see that's gone to 6, next it'll go to 2, and if I press the left one we can go back to 14 again. So those are working, and if I press the pause play, that pauses or plays, so that's working. I think that's it. I think all the buttons, yeah, all the buttons are doing something, so I think that's fixed. So after all that pain, the next thing I need to do is get this into here. Now this is going to be a challenge because obviously it's quite thick, but yeah, I think I can pull it off. So it's the same sort of thing I showed on that Philips CDI video. What you need to do is try and tuck it into the heat shrink if you can. Squish it a little bit like that at the sides, massage it, rotate the heat shrink tube in there. Don't just force it because you'll slide the tape. Can you see that? Twisting it is the key, because if you twist it you won't remove the tape. So as we come up to this bit here, perhaps not show it on camera, but I'm going to get a little bit of super glue on here around the circumference just before I slide it on. So finally just shrink the heat shrink here. So we'll just give this a bit of a clean with some IPA. I mean, it looks like it might just be dirt. Yeah, it is. I haven't screwed all the screws back in yet. I'll do that in a second. And I'll go over this with some Meguiar's plastics in a sec. And that should get the plastic looking super new, actually. And I might, like I say, stick some little plastic things on that D-pad underneath just to stop it from rotating around, but I mean, it's not essential. The D-pads are awful on these, they really are. Yeah, I mean, it's got some scratches on there. They're never going to come off, but at least the majority of the marks have come off there. I want to be careful around that print there. Try and avoid touching it if I can, just because I might pull it off with the IPA. So I really should be washing this in the sink, but we'll get rid of that IPA now with a bit. So got rid of that label there with a bit of IPA. The next thing we're going to do is I'll clean these little screw holes here, but you can see that screw there, the one screw that's holding it together at the moment is rusty. So I'll just clean the heads of those with a wire brush and a fiberglass brush, I think. Then we'll get some plastics onto it. I'll find a replacement screw as well, because one's short, I think. So I had three brand new silver screws that I've put in there. And the other ones are all corroded, these black screws, so I'm just cleaning the tops up with a wire brush here. I'll spray them with WD-40 and then just wipe them down. Yeah, that's not too bad. Yeah, there we go, got a screw in every hole now. And I'll just clean it up with a bit of Plastarex, actually, just a little bit. Storing your wires, store them like that. Don't wrap them tightly bound around the controller, because that's what breaks them ultimately. Just put them into a reasonable size loop like that, where it naturally feels like you're not having to bend it and put pressure on it. But that's why cables on power supplies and controllers often. So the thing I've done is, off one of these really cheap pads here, it was one that I scrapped ages ago, it's like a £3 job. Cut off the little plastic tabs, super glued them on, and then melted with a soldering iron just over on both sides. So yeah, it looks a bit of a mess, as you can see, but the net result is they're really well secured, and they will hold that in place there so that it can't slip around, because that is happening with this. Actually, it is slipping. So the little plastic notches I added in there have worked a treat, actually. I mean, I don't know what they'll be like long term, but the bad news is there is another fault with this, and it's the cable again. I've just been playing around with this, and it was working fine for a while, and then I realised if you move the cable like that there, you lose the up direction. All of the directions are okay, so we're going to have to do a similar thing. I'll just chop off like an inch or something in there. I mean, the cable is still very long. This is like longer than any of my other joystick cables, but it's it's probably a good foot at least shorter than an original one of these would have been. So I've took some photos of this area. The damage is going to be in here, so we'll just carefully snip that off. And as I say, all I'm going to do is just desolder that and then reattach according to the colours there. So you can see I removed the wires here. We've got our crusty wire there. So the next thing is to strip the covering off these. I've coated the first three there, the red, sorry, the white, green and brown. Let's just do the red. And what you want to do is just nip into the very, very edge with some very sharp cutters like that. And you're probably not going to be able to see, but yeah, I've removed a little bit from the end there. And then twist the braids together. I'll show you on the red and the grey. If we just get it like that. They're very fine, these, they're very small, so they're quite fiddly to do, but yeah, twist them together like that, and then just heat with a little bit of solder to tin it, and then it's easy actually to fit it through the hole on the board there. Just like this, just heat a bit of solder at the same time as heating the pin, and you can tin them up. If you don't do that, it can be fiddly to get them to go through the holes. So wire soldered back on, and I just bend this in the same sort of manner this was here. Yeah, so I think it went that way, like that. So over the top there, and then just snake it around. And if you're anything like me and you've not cut off as much here as you should have done, which I hadn't, just carefully snip sideways. Try and get under the edge of the thing there. Just snip a little bit, and you can start to gradually peel it off. So I've got a little bit of distance there, which means that I can pull it up here, because it was too restrictive, because I hadn't cut enough there off, so we can just literally bend that up like that there, snake it around there like that, back up around there, and finally out through the cavity here. So something I want to quickly share with you here, Gerd Kautzmann, is that how you say his name? He's reverse engineered this actually, and he's uploaded the schematics. I'll post a link to this website below, so yeah, do check it out. But you can see here how this works. You've got a shift register here. I think it's like parallel to serial or something. And if you look, let's just look to the left. Right, these are the directions. So you've got up, down, left, right, and you can see they're just contacts that go between ground and the pins there. Same as 2600 or Kempston type pin out there. And then some of the other signals come to these non-inverting buffers here. I think the three-state non-inverting buffers. And if you look at the buttons, the way the buttons are wired up here, you know, so that's like pause, left front, left right, you know, shoulder buttons, green, yellow, red, blue. If you look at the connections for the majority of those, they all come across here. They've got pull-ups, I think, there, and they go into the parallel side of the shift register. So the way this works is obviously you have a clock input, and as the clock pulses come through, this the things that are red here, the signals that are red here, get pushed out on the GH, is it GH? Yeah, QH, sorry. QH connection down here. Let's just zoom out a bit. Through this non-inverting buffer again, and a red on this pin down here. So this is why you can't just, you know, easily, well, you can now with these schematics, but you couldn't just, you know, you can't just quickly bodge something together to get any old controller working. You've got to, you know, wire it up the same way with regards to the shift register and the way it's clocked, you know, the day it's clocked through there. But yeah, I thought that was worth just showing you. You can, you know, of course, use these schematics to go and produce your own board, and there is, and I'll post a link below, I can't remember the name of it now, I'll stick it up here. There is a kit you can buy to be able to build your own, you know, CD32 controller from like a cheap old SNES, one of the, well, new stock, one of the cheap SNES pads, you know, aftermarket SNES pad. So yeah, that might be something I have a look at in future. Yeah, so not a bad pickup. These are super hard to get hold of. They normally sell for like £40 upwards, so, you know, I got this at around half price actually. There's no telling how long the little plastic notches will last on that, but I have used it for a number of hours now, and it's no problems. I've not heard any bits snap off or anything, so I think it should be okay as long as I'm gentle with it. You start playing Street Fighter type games with it, yeah, you might damage it again, but... And the other obvious thing here is, you know, you'd be better off replacing the cable entirely. That would save you a lot of grief. But it was a really long cable, so I felt like I could get away with it on this occasion. Yeah, I mean, I have done. It was worth it. But you could just buy a cheap joystick extension cable. But what you need to make sure of, if you get an extension and use an extension to replace this, you know, just chop the end off the, you know, not this side, but the other side, solder it straight to the PCB there. You need to be mindful it passes all 9 connections, because all 9 are used on this, and that's one of the problems. Other joysticks, you can just get away with using any kind of joystick extender for, you know, any 9-pin Atari type, because the directions and the button and the ground and stuff are all common. You know, it's a common set of pins there, so even though all of them are not passed, for a Kempston type joystick, you know, Atari 2600, etc., that would work fine for any stick as a replacement cable. But on something like this, as I say, you've got all 9 connections there, so yeah, you need to think about that. One final thing I'll point out here, they've curved the label here, and it kind of goes a bit wonky around the G there. Can you see that? It's like they've got, you know, it doesn't follow. If you follow the contour of the plastic there, it doesn't follow it at all. So yeah, it's a bit bodgy. There's a little bit of the rubber just missing on the very corner of there, so yeah, that's unfortunate as well. I do hope you found the video interesting. Please leave me a thumbs up, and I'll catch you in the next video.